Okay, what is this wonky thing? As a follow-up to the MapleStory customer conference, which took place last weekend, and a precursor to the test server patch, which will be released tomorrow. Ooh. MapleStory's director Kang Wonki has released a letter to players entitled "We will repay you with a changed MapleStory." Okay. Okay, to all the customer representatives that attended the conference and all of the customers who watched the video from home, we sincerely thank you. We will do our best to ensure that the voices you shared were not in vain by carefully reviewing and reflecting on the valuable opinions you gave us. And it's partially because of this that I have not made any kind of official statements or official videos or like rundowns or whatever about the conference and everything that was mentioned in there. Because even though things may have been answered to in the affirmative, that doesn't mean that it's something that's going to happen soon. It doesn't mean it's going to happen exactly the way that people discussed it. I want to keep like the amount of speculation on that stuff to a minimum. Yeah, it's cool to like theorize on like how they said, oh yeah, we want that as well. Therefore, they're going to do that. Therefore, we can start planning on it. I want to stay a little more concrete with that and wait until there are official announcements coming from Kang Ki or just through official channels that talk about like this is what we're gonna do with the things that we talked about during the conference, and this is how realistically we're going to be implementing it, and this is how we're planning to do it. And then just do the way I regularly do it when we have like KMS content, then see KMS Tespia content to see like how are they putting that into Tespia, and then putting Tespia and the live servers together and talking about this is how they had it in Tespia, this is the feedback they got, which hopefully you have more detail now because of the editor's notes, right, that they're doing based on player feedback, and this is how it's going to go in KMS. And then based on that, this is how it's probably going to be implemented for us in either 4.5 months, in either 6 months, in either 1 year, and then as a result, this is the stuff that you want to do as a player to make sure that you prepare for that in GMS. That's how I plan to do it. Not like, here's a list of 18 things that some people who translated it from the conference who speak decent or very good Korean heard it, and these are the interpretations they give to that. And here are the 5 other sources that say similar things, but kind of different priorities, and mention some things that other people didn't, and don't mention things that other people did. I just think that that's a little bit too speculative and a little bit too reading into things. So I'm keeping with my general process for now. As always, it might mean that I'm a little bit behind on some things where other people like break the news faster, but it means that I'm generally, hopefully, more correct. And it's very easy to just, it's the whole cycle of breaking news, trying to be like the first one there to break the story, so that if you're right, you could be right. But sometimes, more often than not, you can be only partially correct or maybe even wrong. And I prefer to be right and a little bit slower than to like maybe be righter or be faster, but then be wrong afterwards. So that's kind of how I'm going through this whole process. Not pointing the finger, not like saying that some other people are like doing things wrong. That's just how I want to do it. So with all that said, let's get back to the actual letter. Where is it? I have it on different. Oh wait, can I put it on screen actually? I could maybe put it on the screen. Bam. Oh my god, look at that. That's almost good. There we go. Yeah, so that's what the representatives, so they're thanking everyone for their feedback and for showing up. Super cool. Also apologize to any customers who felt discomfort from some inconsiderate vocabulary and expressions used during the conference. They were expressions due to the tense emotions and unfamiliar environment. We ask for your understanding. I think that goes both ways. I think some people have said that the feedback from the players was a little bit aggressive at some times, and maybe as a result, as a dev, they might come across a little bit defensive. I think that's a normal state of affairs. It is pretty tense, right? And I think everyone was trying to do their best. So something isn't like super, 100% PC one side. I think you should have like the consideration for both sides, that it is kind of heated. But yeah, of course I only read transcripts. I don't know if there were any like snide comments made or anything like that. But yeah, I guess that's just referring to that. It's the map I'm currently on. Well, thank you, game. I appreciate that. We're currently reviewing the questions which were provided in writing during the conference. which we will quickly organize the responses from the development team, and we will provide a notice from the homepage to gather an improvement plan, which was promised in the conference. In addition, change was promised for April. Can be confirmed and the April 15th test server update release note. So we'll be looking at that very, very closely. That'll be tomorrow for Korea. I usually wait until Max on Orange Mushroom, which is where I'm also reading this. A very good source of all information that is coming from KMS. Definitely check them out. I'll put links in the description. I'll definitely wait until Max is like a full translation of all of that stuff. So we have the details, not like leaks from Reddit and like half translated things. Again, to be like consistent with the whole process I just laid out. The thing is, though, that I will, well, we'll be looking at it closely. So again, I might be like a day late to that. So not like super breaking news, not on top of all of it, but in the hopes that it's like more correct, more complete, because I don't speak the language. So I don't know the nuances of some things. I might miss out on stuff. Like just using Google Translate just isn't enough for me. We do have a lot of people speaking Korean, and we have a large playing Asian population, of course, so many of those are half or partially Korean who can decipher more than I can, of course, as I assume Max is as well. Or he's just making it all up, but like getting very correct for very, very long. That's also very possible. Among the various methods, wait, I was going to mention something else with this. Homepage improvement? No, never mind. It'll come to me if it's important. Among the various methods that MapleStory is considering in order to strengthen our communication with customers, we're currently preparing the specific operation plan of the customer advisory group and the reorganization of the discussion board and other additional measures. Oh yeah, so they talked about that in the conference. Oh yeah, that was the thing I was going to mention on. See, because what they're already saying that they're going to do is they're not going to like jump into, oh, these are the things that we're immediately going to implement and immediately going to do. It's more like these are the things that we were already planning in April. We will link these two things in the conference. We will cluster the complaints and the comments during the conference to make sure that they get addressed appropriately at the appropriate times. And of course that they get linked to things that we are already doing and that they have a correct influence in the aspects of the game that we were already planning to improve, to make sure that they also those implementations and those things that we were changing also include the comments that were made during the conference and general sentiments of the player base that were made on the message boards and all of that, to stay internally consistent with the whole process, right? That's the whole idea behind that. So the other thing is also the thing I talked about is like, we're not going to see a conference where it's like, let's go live to like John Kim in the coding room, who's now live going to implement this change that we just talked about. That's not how everything is going to go, right? It's going to be a process of like, okay, player base wants this, we are planning to do this. How can we solidify those? How can we unify those in a way that doesn't distort the balance that we have intended, but that does listen to our player base and the things they want, because we have a lot to make up for, etc., etc., etc. So that's also, again, part of the reason why I laid out how I'm going to go about this, because I know it's a lengthy process, and I don't plan to like jump ahead of that train and be like, this is definitely what Nexon is going to be doing. Cool. Yes, Maple is in pain. Oof. And by that he means the player base in KMS is suffering hardcore, the amount of players at least. When we heard these words from a customer representative, our hearts truly ached. MapleStory and our wallets. It goes beyond a simple game to some customers and has become an important part of their precious memories. We are very sorry that we have left scars on customers' memories due to our poor operation, and our hearts are broken. Our mistakes are big, so now we will change. We will do our very best to make MapleStory joyful now, not just joyful memories for our customers. We ask for your concerns and reprimands so that MapleStory can have a more healthy service going forward. And I think that's kind of like plays into the whole like conflicted atmosphere that there was, like the back and forth and like the tense atmosphere that there was during the conference, is because the bigger the perceived gap is between the devs and their player base, the more aggressive people will be, because they feel like they're not getting hurt at all. And the more direct that line of communication is, and the more appreciation each party feels like the other one has for them, the less extreme the voices will have to be, and the more, I think, constructive the conversation can be. And that definitely is something that Nexon has to work on the most for now, to make sure that they are willing to listen, that they're willing to come to the table, and that they're taking player voices seriously. And then as soon as they do that, I think hopefully accordingly that will mean that the player voices will become more moderate, more considerate, more understanding, and less extreme, hopefully, right? The risk is, of course, if you know, and that's like the tightrope you have to walk as the game here, is like, how do you find the line between giving the players what they've wanted all these years and listening to them and taking them more seriously, versus just rolling over for everything and then teaching the player base like, hey, if you just scream hard enough, we'll just give you whatever you want, even if it breaks your game. Because as we talked about recently on the stream, some games that did that, where they had a really good idea and they just listened very well to player feedback and they just did everything that the players wanted, they just killed their game and then nobody plays it anymore. And the players, you know, if it's a kind of a new game, that's more of a thing, because people can just be like, oh, well, this game that didn't do what I wanted it to do, I'll just go play another one. Of course, with MapleStory, that's not going to be as much, hopefully, the thing, because the players have been playing for much longer. They're much more invested in, you know, in every kind of conceivable way. So hopefully people have more of a long-term understanding and vision for the game as they've had. But that's the tightrope that they have to walk, and I applaud Nexon for at least trying it, being open about it, and now just wish them success in doing it, because I think that's going to be really, really difficult. But they owe it to the player base to give it a very serious attempt. So yeah, tomorrow, new test server in KMS on the 15th. They are ahead of our time. So that might mean that we might see patch notes like late in my stream tomorrow, but probably on early Friday we'll probably talk about them and see the new changes that are coming in KMS Tespia. Should be very interesting. One of the things that was mentioned that I think is impactful enough that was mentioned in the conference is that for Reboot they are planning to unify the droplets, so both the Stone Origin droplets and the River droplets, or more commonly referred to as the Will and the Lucid droplets, I guess, to unify them as a resource to making your arcane gear in Reboot, which will have implications for crafting Reboot gear and stuff like that. So do keep that in the back of your head, because that's, I wouldn't mention it because, you know, because of my rules and everything, but since it is such a long-term, impactful possible thing, since, you know, deciding to make your arcane gear has such long-term implications because of the ramifications, because of the hours you have to spend for getting this resource, I do want to mention that one hesitantly. So keep that in mind, and we'll definitely look at which things that were mentioned in the conference that you've heard floating around in other videos and other content, to see which ones of those will be implemented in the future and in which way they will be. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully you guys are as well. And hopefully tomorrow or the day after we'll see the first signs of that in the new Tespia patch notes. So let's keep an eye.